from our side and Wolters
So,
Kluwer.
yeah, Swati, we are live.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Satish. Yeah, hello. A very good morning. It's raining here. I hope it's a pleasant weather at your end also. And yes, we will start in a few moments. We have been silent for the last 2 months because of some work issues and all, but we were awaiting that when we do this next webinar on topics which are of importance to the pharmaceutical industry, pharmaceutical marketing and all. So here we are back with a session for pharmaceutical marketing, sales, medical affairs, and all those who are interested in learning about this topic. This is an overwhelming response for our today's event. Satish, I still see people joining in, so I think I will just wait for 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 1 minute more, and then
yeah. So a lot of people in waiting room, they are joining. I don't know why there may be some technical issue from the Zoom side, but yes, they are joining. Let's wait for some time. Yeah.
So I hope you all have been good. We have been running a lot of polls also in the focused WhatsApp group, and the results and the points that are coming up are very, very important. One poll we also posted in the morning about how are you feeling today, and those who are feeling a bit sad, please cheer up. Create a learning mindset and learn, enjoy, and even interact in this 90-minute session of today. So I'll not wait now. I'll start the session. Welcoming all on the in this webinar on the topic of empowering pharma marketing, unlocking the potential of doctor engagement in evidence-based content delivery. Just to set the context here, we have been hearing from maybe last 5 or decade that content is the king, and today also content is going to be very, very important in your day-to-day work. How you create, what you create, how you deliver, whom you deliver is all what content would be about. And we all are, maybe I hope 90% of us are using those AI tools also, like ChatGPT, Bard, and 100 more extensions coming after that, which has come up in AI and all, for helping us create content. We have been doing it also. So the dynamics is changing very, very fastly in content world now. And hence we partnered with Wolters Kluwer to bring in some more insights and about content creation, about evidence-based content creation. We all are quickly browsing our phones all the time and seeing entertaining content. That is one insight. But in pharma, in health, with doctors, entertainment is there, but scientific and evidence-based content is the key, to engage. So that is how we partnered with Wolters Kluwer, and thank their team who have joined hands to bring this session alive today. So quickly, I will introduce the speakers today for today, and then we move towards the discussions, the insights which our esteemed speakers have to share today. We have with us Mr. Sanjeev Navangal, Managing Director and CEO, Bharat Serums and Vaccines Limited. Sanjeev is widely recognized and acknowledged professional in the pharmaceutical domain. Under his leadership, a host of global pharmaceutical companies have achieved operational success. His mentorship and contribution towards creating and driving value-based culture are widely acknowledged by business leaders. In his diverse career span of 30 years, Sanjeev has experienced entrepreneurship and also served on the board of Johnson & Johnson Private Limited India and Fulford India. He has been a recipient of several industry awards in public health, marketing, and diversity. Recently, he was recognized as one of the top 100 business leaders in Asia for 2022 by Economic Times. He has served as the Vice President of OPPI and been a chairman of AMCHAM Pharma Committee, American Chamber of Commerce. Apart from these commendations, he has served on the academic board of NMIMS, Pharma Management, IES Management School, and IHMR, a master's in business administration, and holds a bachelor degree in pharmacy. Welcome, Sanjeev, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have our next speaker as Mr. Prithvish Banerjee, Senior Director and Group Business Head, Cipla. He has blended sales and marketing expertise over 27 years, 12 years of national leadership role in strategic business planning and execution, which he built atop a strong 12-year sales and marketing pedigree in top MNCs, including Pfizer, BI, Abbott Diabetes Care, GSK Consumer Health, and Unilever. He has proven success in establishing new entrants in the Indian pharma market, patented product launches, GTM models, and created winners across the industry spectrum, pharmaceuticals, OTC, OTX, and FMCG also. His expertise lies in step-changing growth of struggling business units, achieving deep cost savings through GTM transformation, setting up new businesses, succeeding in new markets, and acceleration new launch output, to name a few. Welcome, Mr. Prithvish.
Thank you.
And yes, we have Mr. Harsh Nagpal, Head Product Management and Marketing, Global Growth Market, India, from Wolters Kluwer. Harsh Nagpal is an accomplished professional with extensive experience in product management and marketing, currently serving as the Head of Product Management and Marketing at Wolters Kluwer, India. He is responsible for overseeing the India market and driving product strategy, marketing campaigns, performance, and overall business strategy. Throughout his career, Harsh has demonstrated a remarkable ability to prioritize and make sound business decisions, consistently achieving goals in diverse industries such as publishing, pharma, information services, insurance, and financial services. His expertise spans both B2B and B2C products and has successfully managed digital platforms for various target audiences, including medical students, doctors, insurance agents, and customers seeking insurance and tax auditing services. 18 years of work experience with him. Prior to his current role, Harsh has held strategic planning and product leadership positions at prominent firms such as Sun Life and Infosys. He has consistently focused on driving transformation, fostering partnerships, promoting innovation, and spearheading new business initiatives. Welcome, Harsh.
Thank you, Swati, and good morning all. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so good morning, and we have the panel now live. So I will right away put questions to the panel and seek answers from them. Panel is requested to please add to this discussion any question which they feel like if it is missing a point or so. So first question for Sanjeev sir on this topic. We are talking about a lot of content now. Content is taking different forms. Content, fake content is there, real content is there, evidence-based content is there. So this question goes to you, Sanjeev sir. Pharma has been engaging with doctors through content, whether promotional content or scientific content, for ages. And with the advent of generative artificial era, all the chat GPTs, running on our laptops, the content can be customized and made more beneficial for engagement. How do you see the role of content in pharma marketing evolving? You have been there, done that. So this question goes to you.
Good morning, everyone. And Swati, this is quite a provocative question in a way. The reason being, I think I must start by saying that on behalf of all the big pharma companies, that we have been poor converters to modernity. I think we must admit that, and we must not feel bad about it. That's where we are. Yeah. The reason is that the engagement with the medical community on content has been dominated by product and molecule data. Basically, what is the content that gets discussed? It's as simple as product and molecule data and related probable patient treatment benefits. Yeah, that has been the cornerstone of all these engagements in different forms, whether you do it in one-to-one, one-to-many, CMEs. But is it really something that means anything today? To me, we have to, as pharma professionals, and especially for people who are joining, I would say, we need to switch off from it. It's not required. It's not something that the doctor wants, nor the patient wants. It is not adding value to them. I'm only trying to say that my brand is better than somebody else's brand, or my molecule is better than somebody else's molecule, and therefore right. And that's not what anybody wants to hear now. Because exactly as you mentioned, whether it is ChatGPT, Bard, Google, or whether it is all the knowledge on the net, or whether all the knowledge that gets disseminated through online, I think this basic knowledge of what molecule is what is known to everyone. And what is required for treatment is known to everyone. Where are the issues? The issues are that is medical community practicing evidence-based medicine in their protocols. Based on their treatment protocols, are patients getting the right treatment? And based on that treatment, are they getting the right outcomes? That is something that I think is something more important, crucial, and value add to everybody. You and me, everybody are patients ultimately. We want better outcomes. And at the end of the day, if that is the content that needs to be driven, then all companies will have to change what they're talking in the marketplace. Possible? I don't know, but I think it is important that technologically this is possible. We have to understand that there are many, many different means by which we are able to demonstrate that these things can be done. This is not some rocket science or difficult story anymore or nothing. If I'm dealing with any particular disease, for example, let's take, I'm trying to take a difficult part of the disease. If I'm dealing with cancers or oncology, yeah, there are now different cases available, use cases available to demonstrate that a combination of different therapies, using immuno-oncology, using chemotherapy, using some other agents, we're able to do some predictive AI and say that, okay, for this kind of patient, this outcome looks far more relevant, and treatment should be so and so. If that technology is available, shouldn't companies be partnering with the medical community, with the patient community to say that, look, don't worry, I think we can help you with all getting all this together and demonstrate that we can customize the treatment to you for better outcomes. By 2030, most cancers will be treatable because of a lot of research going on. But if that is the case, the benefit to the patients will only come if companies change their behavior and start looking at all this as a knowledge base, which ultimately helps the doctor to treat the patient and the patient to achieve desired outcomes. And that is where the customization needs to happen. That is where the knowledge needs to be used. Unfortunately, we get so caught up in what we want to sell, and on 29th and 30th give palpitations to the entire company from a P&L perspective, that we forget why are we there in the first place. We have responsibility to treat patients. We are not there for anything else. Everything else is a result and multiplication. X number of patients treated by Y product at Z price is a multiplication. It has no value. If I treat X amount of patients properly, then only that Z will come. Otherwise, it has no meaning. And that is where we reorient ourselves, unfortunately, every month to a different sphere where we need not go. And that is where managements need to change. I can't tell my person in the field to be schizophrenic. That, oh, tum 4 din ye karna, 8 din ye karna, and 29th go tell me what is your sale. I can't do that anymore. Yeah? It is not helping anybody. And unfortunately, in a branded generic market that India has predominantly become, the pressure on saying my brand is more important or better than your brand has become far more, let's say, attractive but divisive, and has nothing to do with what the doctor is doing with the patient. Yeah. So what needs to be understood is that technology is allowing us huge amount of advantage to really move from position A to position B where we need to be. And this would be for the good of the Indian patients. This would be good for all the patients around. We should try and see how we can incorporate that in every treatment sphere. I know I speak a lot on diabetes, so I'm keeping it away, but in any other treatment, yeah, look at dialysis treatment, for example. Can we not understand what is happening with the patient in a much better way? Is there a continuum that pre-dialysis times, the nephrology situation or the kidney situation understanding, if the companies help the doctor with the patient that, okay, this is what is the outlook, or over a period of time, this is our predictive analysis on where this patient will go. Now, does the patient have to go through the dialysis route for, let's say, transplant? Or can he or she immediately go to transplant? Can we avoid that pain of dialysis for a particular time? All these are reflective stories of what can be done. But unfortunately, the only probably team which is not changing much is the pharma team. We are still caught up with what we used to do. And most managements fear that this change will be very disruptive for them and they might lose business. But what probably we don't understand is if they change, the area under the curve for the next 10 years, 15 years is that much larger. So it doesn't matter if we take a hit for some time. And, this is where probably a lot more needs to change. I'm trying to experiment something in one disease area to see that is everything changing by this. Do I train my people not to promote product and tell them go just dump your detail aids? I have told them, burn your detail aids, throw them away, not required. Yeah, don't talk about the product. We want to be the number one player in this disease area. If we want to demonstrate that, what we need to do. And we want to be number one player for the patient, not for the multiplication. So what do we need to do? And maybe reorienting teams this way is going to probably help. And that is where unmet medical need is. So sorry for a little longish answer, but probably that is where we need to move.
Thank you, Sanjeev sir. Right away, hitting on the nail. That is what was required at the start of the event only. So whatever we do, it is for the patients. That mindset has to come in. Whatever we are doing, it is for the patient. Even if we are creating scientific content and delivering it to the person who is going to deliver it to the patients, it has to be patient in your mind. And that has been spoken a lot from our forum, Sanjeev sir, by Vivek sir and all. And that's the perfect answer to start the discussion today. Next question to Mr. Prithvish. Prithvish, see, content delivery has happened even in physical format, the LBLs and all. And also now from the last, I would say after COVID, 2 or 3 years, digitally content delivery has reached some heights. And you have been there in the whole of this ecosystem where this digital technologies are taking over for the content delivery. So your experience, please share with us what are the key challenges faced by the industry, pharma industry, in effectively harnessing the potential of digital technologies for content delivery and engagement. You're on mute, Prithvish. You're on mute. Please unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the question. But before I begin, let me really thank Mr. Sanjeev for that provocative thought that he has brought about. It actually changed the way I was thinking since morning, and it's got me thinking more now. So I think, thank you, sir, for putting the context across for what is really afflicting the pharmaceutical domain today. Coming to your question, Swati, I think pharmaceutical industry is increasingly using digital platforms to reach out to doctors, patients, and try the engagements. But nonetheless, as we go ahead with the traditional model, we see that there are certain challenges which needs to be addressed. First and foremost, I will take the word which you yourself said in the morning. It's about trust and credibility of a company or a platform, simply because there is immense data out there in the domain, and in a digital domain, the speed at which it travels is much faster. So the first things first, there needs to be a trust and credibility in between the company and the doctor, or in between the company and the patient, because that's where the foundation lies for beginning this entire story. Now that I feel sometimes the industry or the pharmaceutical companies are missing. What you need to do in these certain cases, which I have seen, you need to be extremely transparent about the source of your data. You need to have strong database to support what you're saying in the digital domain. And then needs to be a two-way communication between the stakeholders, whether it's patients, whether it's doctors, and the industry. So this is point number one, that is trust and credibility. Point number two that you need to understand is that while there is a lot of data available, companies are not able to target the right audience. And to target the right audience, you need to do a lot of segmentation. While we have done our traditional segmentation, But when I look at digital targeting and the right audience, it would mean that developing tailored strategies and content that resonate with specific demographics, such as healthcare professionals, patients, and as such, the industry needs to invest in data analytics. That investment in data analytics would give you the edge of where you need to target, how you need to target, what is the profile that you're targeting with this digital data or the digital data bank that you have, so on and so forth. The third point that I wanted to focus on is, while COVID has forced inertia change in our primary customers, which are doctors, and it's good for the industry, because normally when you want a change to happen in your customers, it takes some time. COVID, though it had a lot of fallouts for the pharma, but doctors were pressed into actually actioning, understanding what is Teams, what is Zoom, how to do telecalling, so on and so forth. Now, still I feel that there is a gap in between the digital literacy and the adoption. Digital literacy and adoption would, there would be still be customers, there would still be patient. While we feel that they are there is still a digital divide. And pharma needs to understand this digital divide. I'll give you an example. And yesterday I was discussing this with my team. My team wanted to put a QR code on a poster with a patient education video on it. And my only question was, how many times in your life have you gone to a QR code, download a video and seen that video? And the answer was 0. Now, realize you are making it for a patient in UP, where possibly all the best that he can do is to do a UPI payment with his mobile phone. You don't expect him to go down to, and so while your intent and the content is there in place, there is a problem of adoption. So this is something that needs to be taken care of by marketeers as they work towards it. They need to think through it. So this is point number 3. Point number 4, post-COVID, there has been a tendency amongst the industry and the doctors to go back to traditional channels, back to the visual aid, back to samples, back to everything. Now, this again needs to be appreciated, because it often happens when there is a need, we go to a certain thing. When it's not there, we try to fall back on our existing practices. Okay. Now, this is something that is very, very critical. This is where marketeers need to understand how to make that bridge, how to develop that content that you are speaking, and make it a transition between the traditional model and the digital model. I'll give you an example to make it very simple. If there is any marketeer in the group who is listening, my question is, do you have 250 KOLs who are digitally connected to you? 250 KOLs is a sufficient enough number. Even if I talk about product sales, sorry, Sanjeev sir, I'm still coming back to product sales. Do you have that connect? And if not, what does it take to make that transition from a traditional way to a digital way and get your KOL onboarded? And if you start thinking about this question, you will go back to point number 1. How do I build my credibility? Credibility comes from the source of your data, from the way you talk and behave with your customer, from the way you make it interactive, and the way you're transparent. So these are the 4 points which I feel are coming in way of effectively harnessing the digital strategies. However, there are 2 more technical things which marketeers need to realize. And one of them is obviously the regulatory compliance thing, which is there in the industry. As a pharma marketeer, you cannot and you will not be able to go and even do anything with the patient without going through the regulatory channel. So be very wary of it. Keep a very close coordination with your regulatory compliance team well in advance to ensure that you don't fall back in your progress. And obviously the issue of data privacy and security continues to remain across all domains, and this is something that companies would need to respect and also agree upon too. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Patrish. That was comprehensive. Even 4 points you have given, people look out for 10 pointers or 30 points. I would say there's 4 points. If marketeers focus on even 1 or 2 points and build their brands on those 2 or 1 point, they would be able to achieve the things that Sanjeev sir talks about, building brands only. That is, your brand should be known by its name for its trust. And I hope so this happens. Next question for Harsh here. Harsh, you have been at forefront of content, publishing content, and scientifically backed content through at Wolters Kluwer. So we all are looking forward to what emerging trends in pharma content marketing are there, and how can companies stay ahead of the curve in this rapidly evolving landscape of content delivery and creation?
Thank you for asking that question, Swati. But before I jump to that answer, I want to say kudos to Mr. Sanjeev and Mr. Prithvish. They kind of set the foundation for me to attack this question in the right way. Sanjeev sir has kind of answered the why, and Prithvish, you've highlighted the key challenges. And those challenges I kind of really see as adversities. And where there are adversities, there you also see the opportunities. And let me just answer this question that the pharma content marketing landscape is rapidly evolving. See, compared to the past, today, the consumers are increasingly turning to digital channels, to social media channels for information about healthcare. Now, there can be many emerging trends, but it's all about pharma companies to adapt their content marketing strategies to increase that reach, to reach maximum consumers where they are. So Prithvish quoted an example of UP. And we can talk about tier 3 cities. Now we see the trend of tier 4 coming as well. How do you reach out to them? We do have some perspective on the emerging trends. And we definitely feel the way I will answer this question is, what are those emerging trends and how pharma companies can utilize that in the times to come? So video-based content marketing. I think by far YouTube has taught that video is becoming increasingly popular as a way to consume content. Pharma companies can use video to not only educate consumers about their products, but tell stories and build that relationship. I'll pick up your point, Prithvish sir, where you talked about 250 KOLs relationship. This is where you want to establish those personalized connect. And that is what my next trend is, personalized content marketing. Now, personalized content is going to be extremely data-driven. It is more likely to engage consumer because you're going to be talking about that personalized information that matters to them and drive results. As I said, pharma companies can use data, which is going to be the foundation, use AI to generate that personalized content for different audience, which could be healthcare professionals, could be patients, caregivers, and many others. The trends also include marketing from credible sources. Now, it's very important that consumers are more likely to trust content from credible sources. So, when you have tie-ups with scientific publishers and medical societies like an American Heart Association, just a case in point, such can help you create or use content, and that kind of increase the credibility. Prithvish did talk about compliance. I also believe in compliance. We need to make sure that the content is compliant with all the applicable regulation. This includes regulations governing the advertising of prescription drugs as well. And one thing that I want to add to the exhaustive list is the mobile optimization. Everybody is holding a mobile right now in their hand. And we need to make sure that our content is optimized for mobile devices so that it can be easily viewed and it can be easily shared. Those are some of the trends that we think are coming up in the times to come. Technology is an enabler always to provide that content out to the end user. And this is where they help you build that relationship. This is where it helps you to build that trust. In order to stay ahead of the curve, I believe there could be 3 things that we can really do from a publishing and a pharma company perspective. One is that we have to be data-driven. Let's run a lot of content marketing campaigns, but keep a watch on the performance of those campaigns, keep a watch on the data it's generating, and make necessary adjustments, make necessary tweaks. You've got to be creative. And I must say, when you design those campaigns, be direct, don't be afraid to experiment with content campaigns, with new content formats. one of the things that we can adopt from the technology world is fail fast, but be agile and keep moving forward. And lastly, we got to be patient. When I say patient, see, for creating any successful content marketing campaign, it can take time and it can give you results, in some time itself. But all you have to do is just be consistent, keep working on those content marketing campaigns, keep learning from the trend, and keep applying those lessons learned to further improve, to further nurture the consumers. I think in a nutshell, the pharma content marketing landscape is constantly changing. And by staying ahead of the curve, pharma companies can reach their target audiences and achieve their marketing goals.
Thanks, Shaz. That was comprehensive again. The list talking about data, tie-ups with the compliant organizations, mobile optimization, video-based story content. That is the key. Today, we all are hooked towards it. In entertainment industry, even made up content works, but we are talking science, health here. That content cannot be made up. That has to be scientifically backed, and the marketers have to understand that creativity is one pillar. The other pillar is your science that you have to talk about. Next question is coming back to square one, Sanjeev sir. This question, because what are the potential barriers? I will rightly put this question to you. Potential barrier that hinders the doctors from fully embracing and utilizing evidence-based content in their practice. Doctors' perspective, if you can tell us, how can pharma companies also address that, skepticism or resistance among the doctors towards content and foster trust in their information?
Sorry. So I'm not trying to be critical of the medical community here, but I'm trying to be, what can I say? As we were taught in school, critical appreciation of poetry. Similarly, let me do critical appreciation of the medical community here. Yeah. The fact remains that the medical community feels overburdened by the treatment of patients. And in that situation, what do they fall back on? They fall back on whatever they have heard or whatever they have read. They fall back on what they feel is okay and treat patients the way they feel is appropriate according to them. And generally ask patients a couple of questions and feel, oh, it's going okay. So I don't have to worry so much about. And they worry about different things. Like I remember 15 years ago during a big diabetes launch, I asked the doctors what is number one on their mind. And they say patient hypoglycemia mein nahi jana chahiye. So it was nothing related to whether the patient is doing well on HbA1c or is it really patient is getting to the right outcome. Something else bothers them. So which is not sometimes the final need. Yeah. And therefore steps in the situation that they need to be challenged. And the challenge can come in different ways. The challenge first has to be that pharma companies have to realize that they are not there to sell their product alone. They are there to help the doctor and challenge him or her to giving right treatment to the patients. And we have to teach that courage to the pharma people to not to be subservient and really be partnering or going to the level of at least challenging the doctor and saying, are you doing these things? The second challenge is the awareness to adoption of data by the doctors of their own patients. Are they really longitudinally tracking their patients, seeing what is happening with them, learning from their experiences, learning from everybody else's experiences to see what this is all about? And there, I think pharma has a role to play again to say that, look, we will help you generate that data. Now, we will ensure that this data gets generated because the systems that we will help you with will be useful for you. And that's something, again, most pharma companies shy away from, saying that, they look at it as a free service to be given in return of a prescription and not look at it from a point of view of that, does it really help in improving the practice of the doctor? The third part is literally engaging patients inside by technology. Yeah, societies can have WhatsApp groups, but pharma companies can't organize patients. I think let's understand that it is a willingness story and not a ability story or a lack of technology story. Yeah, I'm going, as basic as a WhatsApp. But patient-related outcomes, PROs, are the future. And why it is far more accruable, or in a way that transformation is more easily possible now, is because, which I always say, is that while doctors and pharma companies continued to behave in the way they were behaving, they did not notice when the patient became a consumer. And now a patient behaves like a consumer. Patient doesn't behave like a patient anymore. So their ability to transform and get involved in patient-related outcome story is much, much higher. And they're going to participate in that. How do we incorporate all this? So I can call it whatever, I sometimes call it as ACT, awareness, consumerism, and treatment. This triangulation is something which is easily possible now. You have to not break down barriers by telling somebody that they are wrong. But you have to learn to break down barriers by showing and demonstrating what is beneficial. And since, I actually, if you look at what Prithvish and Harsh said, if I would have done a word cloud, content was the biggest word, but probably the second word cloud, 7 times they use the word trust. Yeah. How do you build trust? By not telling you, believe in me or trust me. Yeah. You build trust by demonstration. So if you do these things, you are able to demonstrate to everyone in the system that, look, ultimately you mean good, you do good, and you are ultimately helping the system to deliver better value to patients. So these are things that will break barriers. The barriers are always psychological and not physical or technological anymore. They are all psychological. And psychological barriers have to be treated accordingly. See, look, I remember doing an attitudinal based segmentation of patients and putting them in 4 boxes and saying that, okay, if I ask these 4 questions, I know exactly in which quadrant the patient belongs. Have I used that to tell the doctor, can you not think of using these 3-4 questions in your own conversation with patients and fix them in which quadrant they are in, correspondingly help them to be, let's say, treatment productive, or, follow the treatments properly. It's a very simple thing, but it's a psychological barrier. So look, I think we at times get consumed by what we want and not solve the real problem. If we all start focusing on the real problems, we can break these barriers very easily. There are barriers within us, there are barriers with the doctor, there are barriers with the patient. And I think I gave some idea of all 3, but it's completely possible. It's about effort and changing and reorienting ourselves to do that. Once we do that, you'll find a very happy atmosphere. The patient will, and the pharma and the doctor will look forward to a pharma company guy coming and saying, "Hey, good, yeah, he or she is coming and helping me out." Those days have to come. They were there earlier. Frankly, in 70s and 80s, those days used to exist. I didn't see the 70s market, but I didn't see much of 80s market also. I saw a little bit of 90s market. But yeah, some of those days were there. We lost them. Let's get back to, and let's use technology to drive it.
That was a very, very nicely put, Sanjeev sir. Really strong and really observant of what is happening in the current scenario. The word subservient has stuck with me. So let's hope that mindset achieve what you said, that the mindset transformation happens and we achieve what you just mentioned. Thank you so much for answering this question. And next question for Mr. Prithvish, that, Prithvish, in the last question also hinted at, medical reps and the pharma community going back to the traditional ways of approaching doctors and how to balance it. So how can a pharmaceutical company strike the right balance between traditional print publications and digital platforms to cater to the diverse audience preferences, the first tier, the second, the third, and the 4th tier also, as Harsh mentioned?
Sorry, I was on mute. So thank you, Swati. I think Mr. Sanjeev has already addressed the question in full. I really don't need to add much to it. See, the question is not about striking a balance in between the traditional and the digital model. The question lies in your intent and willingness to partner with the HCP or with the patient with content which is trustable, with content which is believable, with content which is transparent, and the doctor can come back to the company asking for more. So if you still want to go back to the traditional and the digital models, it's not very difficult. I think the first thing that you will need to do is to have a very clear segmentation of your audience as to whom you want to go with the traditional route and whom you want to go with the digital route. As Mr. Sanjeev said, that we are too much sold on our own story. Today, when you ask a pharma marketer about digital marketing, the first thing it says is WhatsApp. WhatsApp is not digital marketing. It's not at all. Or an email, it is not. Do we have the commitment to onboard, as I said, 250 KOLs? It's not much. It's a matter of changing the way you work. Can we onboard them digitally? Once we onboard them digitally, they will become your speakers. They will become the people who take it forward. And for that, you need to build a trust. And for that trust, you need content which is believable. And that content comes from, we have people, we have agencies, we have guys like Harsh who can help us in doing that. So the balance, see, if you are asking me whether traditional will remain or digital will prevail, traditional is going to stay. I mean, with all due respect to digital, the model is such, globally also, traditional is going to stay. What we need to do is we need to bridge that gap. We need to bridge and be more digitally savvy with the customer. Today, we are not digitally savvy with the customer at all. In our brand plans, we do not make a separate digital plan. And even if it is there, it is like reaching out to 10,000 customers with a WhatsApp GIF. That is not a plan. You need to have a clear-cut team working on the digital plan to ensure that what Mr. Sanjeev said, that am I adding value to a particular therapy? For example, I look after respiratory currently. I have looked after nutrition earlier, but now in respiratory. It's extremely important that the doctor feels you trusted, that he can actually ask you questions related, because he doesn't know everything and everything in the world. Today, if you expect that the doctor knows everything, he does not. He knows his science. But with the advent, with the progress of science which has happened, he needs the pharmaceutical company who is trustworthy. And that's where you strike the balance. You need to be trustworthy to strike the balances. I feel that. It's all about intent.
Thank you, Prithvish. And one more question here means to delve deep down into this striking the balance. How pharma marketers, can you help us with an example or some case where pharma marketers leverage personalized content delivery to enhance engagement and strengthen relationships with the doctor and patients?
So, with the patient, obviously, as you know, while I didn't want to mention it, but we do have a 𝘗𝘢𝑗𝐷𝑝𝑔𝑒, as you know, with Cipla, correct? Very recently, we found out that the number of patients in between the age of 3 to 7 years is almost 5 million, and nobody speaks to them. And 𝘗𝘢𝑗𝐷𝑝𝑔𝑒 doesn't speak to them. 𝘗𝘗𝑗𝐷𝑝𝑔𝑒 is a campaign which just speaks about why inhalers, etc., are good. But does it really strike a chord in between the doctor and the patient who is a kid? So we launched something over there. While I cannot divulge the entire details on this call, but let me tell you that we went around gamifying it, or I would say use of comics, to actually send the message across to those 5 million children through doctors and ensure that they have a life, they build a life which is much more better, is future oriented. They don't feel shaky about themselves if they have an asthma or if they have any breathing problems. And that's something which we have started working on. So this is one of the small examples. Without giving details, I can share with you. Very recently, we have done it.
Wow. Prithvish, thank you for sharing this with us. Though this is not the part of the conversation, but you still shared. Really thanking on behalf of all the audience here and myself. Next question, Harsh, to you. What type of evidence-based content are most valuable? See, I'm asking you very, very in depth. provocative questions here. What types of evidence-based content are most valuable in influencing the HCP engagement, and how does the quality and relevance of scientific content impact HCP's perception of a pharma company and their product? Here I'm trying to get an answer from you where you tell us that any case or something where the perception, the trust could be built in, and how evidence-based content is looked forward to.
No, thanks, Swati. And there are two questions in that question, to be honest. And I'm going to start this answer with a disclaimer. I'm going to say, there are legends sitting in this call. I'm going to be using my best of the knowledge to talk about the kind of evidence-based content, but that's my limited knowledge. And happy for people to come in and support me on this. See, today, healthcare professionals are constantly bombarded with information. So it's important to make sure, that the content you are providing to them is relevant, it's being used, and then only you can draw a value out of that content. Evidence-based to me is the gold standard for medical information. It should be helpful for any doctor, any clinician to make that informed decision about the patient, or at least it should enhance the knowledge that they did not really have in the past. There are many different types of evidence-based content. Name a few. Clinical trial case studies. I think these studies provide detailed information about the safety and efficacy of new treatments. So definitely an important one. Evidence-based guidelines. Now, these are developed by experts, and they provide recommendation for the treatment of specific conditions. So by far, these are one of the truly evidence-based content. There are a lot of clinical decision support tools, support solutions. Now, these solutions can help healthcare professionals make informed decisions about patient care. Some of these tools, they need to be the gold standard of evidence-based content. And, it's very, if you look at from a clinician perspective, a healthcare professional perspective, they need to be up to date on the latest research, on the latest findings, so that they can make better, not decision, better informed decisions, evidence-based decisions. There are peer-reviewed scientific publications that come from prestigious societies. These journals, they are generally peer-reviewed. They are thoroughly vetted by experts, and they help in making informed decisions. One of the things that we have seen coming, and I'm again going to use Prithvi's example, is on the KOLs, the key opinion leaders, their perspectives supported by evidence, the expert opinions. See, every doctor looks up to a senior who has done exceptionally well in their space. Seniors look at these people, these junior doctors, to make them as prodigies. So somebody takes the baton forward. And these perspectives can help healthcare professionals with insights from experts in the field. It provides the content from thought leaders. These KOLs are thought leaders to me. And if they are able to share in the span of their experience what truly mattered and how did they do a particular case, that is valued. Because that kind of templatized an information, and that has been taken forward. But that needs to be shared. To the other part of your question, how does the quality and relevance of scientific content impact HCP's perception of pharma companies? I think it's been answered by Mr. Sanjeev and Mr. Prithvi. It all starts with trust. And I'm going to come back to that word as well. Trust is very important. We've done a lot of medical research in the last 30 years in India. And one thing that has come out every single time, one of the top themes, is that healthcare professionals, they are more likely to trust and use products from companies that provide high quality, highly relevant scientific content. That is where the bond really lies. And when doctors see that a company is committed to providing evidence-based information, there can be multiple ways that you can do it. Whether you do it traditional, you do it digital, you can use different channels. It's all about what they are using. And that is, then the healthcare professionals are more likely to believe that the company's products are more safe and effective. So it's sort of a trust factor both the ways. I think I will sum up the answer to the second part is that, when healthcare professionals, they have access to high quality scientific content, relevant scientific content, they are more likely to trust and use products from the pharma companies.
I think I just wanted to add something. Marketeers on the call should realize that Harsh spoke something very specific. He spoke about being contextual and timely. In the digital space, you can build trust if you are contextual, if you are timely. When I say timely, if a guideline comes today, it should be there tomorrow. That sort of a speed you need to execute to build that trust. Only then will the doctor come back to you. So this is one of the tips. He mentioned it, but I just wanted to reiterate the point you made, Harsh.
Thank you, Prithvish.
Wow. Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, Prithvish. And thank you for pointing out the speed. Yes, we are moving quite fast in transformation game. And yes, if that is the choice of a marketeer, that a guideline comes and it is there at the table the next day, I think the whole community will benefit. Thank you for adding. Sanjeev sir, one more question, and then we will try to answer questions from audience also. From your side, you have seen a lot of digital content market initiatives also in your career, how things have shaped in the pharmaceutical industry. What strategies can a company employ to effectively measure the impact, coming back to the word ROI, and the success of their digital content marketing initiatives? So this question always is there in every session of ours. How do we measure the impact of a digital content? Yeah.
So it's there are two levels of answer to this. One level of answer is basically what Prithvish and Harsh are talking about, is the practical way of assessing whether your people are working properly or not, and is it going towards simple desired outcomes. Yeah, that's an important part of day-to-day work that people have. So we have had in the past this situation where people talk about exposures and is the content being done rightly, are the customers listening to the right things, is the feedback coming through the loop mechanism properly, are we really, is the brand making that much change in terms of the adoption ladder. So there are different things that basically you can work through in digital marketing to say that these things are working or not, and those markers are probably something which are getting reasonably established. What we don't want is number counting there. The number counting is that how many exposures happened, has the rep done, how many seconds has he spent on some page and something. This is something which I'm not a big fan of because it doesn't really say much. They are not even lead indicators for me to look at and say that, okay, something is happening or not. It's an activity counting measure, which with no focus on what we want to achieve. So there are other issues, but it is slowly evolving towards where it should be. And I think the more and more doctors are also realizing COVID taught them that family is equally important and not to travel for fancy meetings, but sit in your house and do your work. Yeah, sit in your house and do the meetings. And so there is some practical logistical issues that have also come up. There is, of course, this revenge travel, and it has its own impact and all, but otherwise people are realizing that they can manage their time better. That is helping digital marketing also in a different way. But the more important to me of measurements of digital marketing is we have to start incorporating the end objectives. And that's why I mentioned it a little while earlier, is that our treatment protocols being followed with the patients that my products are getting treated with. Which guidelines are being followed? Are they really the right guidelines for those patients? Is enough customization happening for patients based on their condition? Are there outliers in this? Are the patient-related outcomes getting captured in the system for me to say and go back to the doctor and say, doctor, you treated 15 patients with my product. 7 have done well, 8 have not done well. In 8 who have not done well, 2 are basically because your treatment guidelines are not appropriate for this patient. Yeah, you are not able to customize it properly. There are a couple of patients who are not behaving properly and not taking their medication properly. That is related to it. Now, if that kind of analysis I come with through digital marketing, imagine what will happen. And this is possible, and I have experimented some of these things. It's possible. It is not some great science and great technology story or something. Nothing of that sort. Absolutely nothing. So if those things are done, then you will find digital marketing really achieving its objective. But we have to go further down the road. We have started doing the laps of 400 meters, 1,000 meters, and we have started to do some steeplechase. But we have to go towards the 10,000 meters, go towards the marathon to really, cross that little barrier to ensure that we include the desired outcome story or what we are here for story slowly in our digital marketing piece. That would add a lot of value, because then we are discussing actually what is necessary for our industry and patients and doctors and everybody concerned, frankly, everybody concerned. I'll tell you a very deep and dangerous statistic, and that will tell you why these are important elements and why we should incorporate them in digital marketing. Everybody today, in India, shining more on India's GDP growth is 6.5%, and how everybody is acknowledging in the world, and how we are the 5th largest economy and poised to be the 3rd. All this we talk here. But if I tell you a horrifying statistic that 1% of GDP growth every year gets impacted because we don't manage diabetes and hypertension properly in this country. Yeah, our 6.5 growth was actually 7.5, but we brought it down by productivity loss and income loss and life loss because of diabetes and hypertension. Now, how does it feel? And I have hypothetically worked through the figures to see this statement, that it is not some airy-fairy statement to make, So now when you realize that, and then you take that responsibility on yourselves, I am responsible for this. Am I marketing these products? Then I am responsible for it. That is where things will change. Unfortunately, we in our narrow outlook towards, as I always say, that the biggest destroyer of business wealth is the Wall Street, who made quarterly results publishable. Yeah, so we are driven by behaviors which are not really considerate enough in our industry. Yeah, our industry need not be completely consumed by this. Our industry has to be consumed by the fact that we are here for societal good, and we have to incorporate many things that are probably other companies may or may not do. And in that case, digital marketing markers will have to change over a period of time. I'm not saying that it will happen today, but for sure they need to change for now.
Thank you, Sanjeev sir. That pointer is very important. 1% of GDP lost due to these all things. That's big, Sanjeev sir. And yes, as we change our strategies, we test the markets, we pilot some things with the right intention. I think the pharma will benefit, all across healthcare will benefit from this. Thank you so much. Harsha, one question to you, because you come from publishing house. So over to you to tell us, how can the collaboration between a pharmaceutical company and publishing houses drive innovation and brings about this transformative change that we are talking about with Mr. Prithvish and Sanjeev sir in content creation and delivery?
Thank you, Swati, for asking that question. I think it's somewhere answered, but let me just summarize this in 3 different ways. Something that's been said by Mr. Sanjeev and Mr. Prithvish both. First, what kind of content? So both the pharma companies and the publishing houses, they need to collaborate on creating more engaging, informative, interactive content for the doctors. But again, the intent should be that it should be valuable, it should be relevant. And then only you can establish that trust. These content, what kind of content could involve using various different formats, interactive format like videos, simulations, certifications, gamification. It is totally on your imagination, how you want to engage them, okay? The content has to be more immersive and memorable. Second is, how will this content be delivered? The 2 entities can collaborate. So both pharma companies and publishing house can collaborate to develop new ways of delivering content to the healthcare professionals, right? It can be, like Prithvish mentioned in one of the example of WhatsApp. It can be an online platform. Bring the clinicians to your online platform. They can be mobile apps, they can be e-learning courses. The content should be easily accessible in a nutshell and should be convenient to use. And the third point is, how will you measure the impact of this content? because that's where the buck really lies. Both the entities, they need to collaborate to create ways to measure the impact of content on patient care. Obviously, you have to use data analytics to track how healthcare professionals use the content and how it affects their clinical decisions. But the question is, why should they really collaborate on? Like, what are the benefits that they see by doing this collaboration, right? So one of the things that we definitely see is you see increased reach. So going from when you do things digitally, when you do things in a partnership, you can reach a wider audience of these healthcare professions by partnering with publishing houses. You see enhanced credibility of the content because it does matter. If the content comes from a credible source and is compliant, it does matter because it takes half your pain away. And the publishing houses, we can lend our credibility to pharma companies' content, making it more likely to be trusted by the doctors. And ultimately, it's all about improving the efficiency. So streamline the content creation and delivery process, ultimately leading to cost effectiveness and overall efficiencies. But I think by working together, both pharma company and publishing houses can create innovative and transformative content that will improve patient care.
Thank you, Harsh. So yes, building trust is the key, and use content to build trust. Use your creativity to build trust. Here, these are the questions that I wanted to ask to the esteemed panel. Before moving towards more questions and a quick presentation by Wolters Kluwer, I would like to bring in our speakers, Sanjeev sir, Prithvish, to please speak some lines about this topic. And then we move towards opening the forum for questions also. So Prithvish and Sanjeev sir, if you can add something, you want to add something on this forum, we have almost 500 people watching us.
Prithvish, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Now, all I wanted to, I just saw that there are significant numbers of marketeers from Indian companies, and they may be feeling how we can really become a trustworthy partner because we are selling generics. It doesn't matter. Trust does not come from being a generic or a founder or a innovator. It comes from you being committed to get into that digital space. For example, respiratory. If I want to build credibility in respiratory, I can always partner with a publishing house. I can use different channels. I can use different mediums. I can use different papers to build a whole campaign around it. Do it for 6 months, and I can guarantee you that the type of transformation you will see and you will start loving your job is of a very different level. The point number 2 is, in today's context of the way the government rules are going on, you will not have any other option but doing this. Please remember, Mr. Modi now does not allow you to give gifts to doctors, correct? So it's extremely important that you move away from that gift culture, from the input culture, to something which is more tenable, something which is more fixed, something which adds value, as Mr. Sanjeev said. So wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Mr. Prithvish. Sanjeev sir, anything to add from your side?
Not, I actually nothing but just say that forget your doctor, forget your product. Try and remember that you're there because of that patient who's suffering. And the moment you change that, then you can actually give gifts to the doctor of actually giving him the right data, the right information, right tools to ensure that his patients do better. That nobody's stopping you from doing, and do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sanjeev sir. Prithvish, Harsh, over to you to take us through a small presentation from Wolters Kluwer, please. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm coming from a Teams world, so Zoom is just throwing a bit of a challenge. But no, thank you for giving us the opportunity. I think it's been a pleasure listening to you, Mr. Sanjeev and Mr. Prithvish. A lot of insights back for us. Just wanted to give a quick perspective about Wolters Kluwer, and I want to touch here more on evidence-based information. So that's going to be in the upcoming slides. But for people who know a little about Wolters Kluwer, or maybe are new to it, just wanted to let you know that we are a global information service provider who provides solutions in various domains. So we are in health, but we are also in tax, accounting, ESG, risk, legal and regulatory. So we are quite diversified. When it comes to health, we support clinicians, researchers, and healthcare organizations, and we specialize in clinical effectiveness, learning, research, and safety. Just to give a perspective of our health portfolio, and I'll not take a lot of time here. We are there where the doctors are. We are there where the students are. We are there where the researchers are. So we have tie-ups at all these spectrums, whether it's point of education, point of reference, or point of practice. And you can see this is the portfolio that we have. I will show a glimpse of that in the upcoming slides as well, but we have tie-ups to one of the top societies of the world, prestigious societies, exclusive rights. And we are the exclusive partner for _JM as well. Just to let you know, and if you can click next as well, we are at every step of the journey. Now, this is a very important slide because we are from a student who starts their journey in MBBS. We are there from a preclinical to a paraclinical journey. And we are there doing clinical practices and providing them with decision-making evidence-based solutions. That's where we are. And that's how we are proud of ourselves, because we are there at every single step where anybody in the medical world who needs any kind of information. If you can move to the next slide. So how can we empower pharma industry with dynamic solutions? And I want to give a perspective about the latest research that we've done. We've done a research with an independent, credible third party, name it PwC. We've done that research, and we've conducted interviews with more than 52 clinicians across 8 specialties, doing literally 47 hours of conversation. And this is very important for us because all these doctors were from the experience of 5 to 25. So they were literally in the initial journey to being a KOL as well. And one thing that has come up, and I kind of mentioned that in my panel question as well, that they need high quality information, period. They need that, and they need to access it quickly and easily. We've heard the word of ward rounds in our research. Now, that was very critical for us because, we have a product called UpToDate that's majorly used for disease and diagnosis related queries. But we've realized that maximum doctors use evidence-based information. They can use many solutions. They can use an UpToDate, but they try to use it before going on ward rounds or at times during ward rounds to prepare themselves before seeing the patient. Because the world of medicine is evolving at a fast pace, and you need information while specific to India, but you're open to get the knowledge from a global perspective. Doctors prefer using the clinical decision support tools like UpToDate over any other content because it helps them diagnose, identify correct treatment, and keep them with new developments. There is a lot of mention about relying heavily on journal articles to assess with diagnosis and treatment. They did mention that a lot of doctors, and when you also go out, you will speak to these doctors, you will realize that they go to PubMed, they go to Google, but one thing that they really scramble to do is they scramble to get the full text. Not everybody gets access to full text. And even if they get access, they're not sure if their query is going to get answered. So when you have an urgent patient situation, this is a problem. You can't. So if it's all about investing in resources, whether it's time or the information that you really need. And when I talk about time, doctors are time poor. They don't have time. I mean, we have all witnessed that, and hence they look for this high quality solution that are easy to access, especially in urgent situations. I talked about UpToDate. We are there from a clinical decisioning standpoint. 1.7 million plus clinicians in more than 190 countries use us, trust our platform, and provide us with this, the care that we need from them. And this is something that's getting updated literally on a daily basis. More than 7,000 editors from the world are updating this product and ensuring that there is, it's backed up with evidence-based information. We do have other solutions as well from a 5-minute clinical consult and looking at medical procedures. Again, I talked about the formats of how these solutions are available to the clinicians. And you can go the traditional marketing route, you can go the traditional marketing route. It's all about getting them that information and them to consume it. And that is very important. We've got these bite-sized videos, 5-minute videos that helps them in a situation where they cannot spend more than that time. So these needs are really coming from what the doctors really need and not what we're thinking about the customer. If you can go to the next slide. We also realize that, from an India perspective, the drug reference solutions are a must, and especially drug-to-drug interactions are very critical. And hence, we have solution in this space as well called as Lexicon. This is used to provide fast access to timely and relevant medical information at the point of care, and ranging from dosing and precautions to drug interactions and IV compatibility. I want to let you guys read this feedback for the next 10 seconds. I'm not going to talk about this slide, but this is what the doctors in various different entities around the world are talking about, why clinical decision solution is important to them in today's world. Just 10 seconds on this and we'll move to the next slide. Okay, and Swati, this deck is with you, so feel free to share that with the group. I did talk about decision making, and that can come from different forays. One of the forays is journals, those peer-reviewed information coming from prestigious societies. And there are doctors who rely on it, who actually strive to get even a global membership, and they update that on a yearly basis, only so that they can get access to information to assist with patient diagnosis and for learning. Those who use journals instead of a clinical decision support solution, they do mostly out of habit and lack of awareness as well, because ultimately you still have to scout for information. And again, PubMed did come in our research as well. They use first, but they always scramble to get full text. And obviously, I did mention in one of the evidence-based content, the type of evidence-based content, I talked about that doctors do rely on the key opinion leaders, their seniors. What have they done in this similar scenario in the past? Lippincott journals are brands as well, and you can see some of the examples that are there on this slide. It's with the group to consume. Again, 5 seconds on this slide and we can move forward. We are there in ebooks, journals, textbooks, references, and customized solution, whether they're clinical compilations, newsletter updates, knowledge-based studies, or KOL inputs. I think we've talked about it. It's fine. We are the new partner for 𝑔𝐸𝑚 online while we're working on our partnership. This is 𝑔𝐸𝑚, as we all know, is the most highly cited and influential journal in the world with an impact factor of 176. I think wherever we go and talk about 𝑔𝐸𝑚, we don't really have to talk much about it, just like a product up to date. But again, why am I showing all of this? Just to ensure that, what is your customer using today? Why are they using this? Because they want to make informed decisions. They are able to access it timely. They are able to access it fast. I did share some stats in the group. More than 65% doctors access information before ward rounds. Because when you're going and doing those patient encounters, sometimes you're aware what's coming your way, sometimes you're not. And hence you want to be prepared in your mind as much as possible. With that, I'll end. You can connect with us by scanning this QR code. But it's a pleasure, Swati, being here. And thank you for the opportunity for presenting about Wolters Kluwer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harsh, and the team from Wolters Kluwer. You have been all support for this webinar. Really thanking. And then coming to questions, again, sir, questions are of boiling tone. People are literally asking you very, very direct questions to the panel. Okay, let me take something. I want to stay away from a bigger controversy here, but still I'll take some questions. In this era, Prithvish, you mentioned about, touching with 250 KOLs, right? That instance. The question is, in this era where data resources open, KOL are fatigued. Same 250 KOLs are fatigued, being targeted by so many companies with almost similar one. How to handle that?
Yeah. First and foremost, that is your assumption that he is fatigued. Okay, please get out of that mindset that he or she is fatigued. He's not. He is fatigued with the continuous bombardment of things which do not add value to him. Please go back to my earlier statement of building trust and credibility. Trust and credibility will come to the type of a few examples which just now Harsh gave you. I will give you an example. Why don't you connect with top 100 medical colleges of the country, casual to the students who are in the third year or in DNB, Why don't you run a digital campaign with them for 6 months? You can run surveys, you can run polls, you can run a lot of other campaigns. In fact, I'm saying this from example that we run a quiz which is only run by us, and people really walk up and ask us when that quiz is going to happen. So it all depends on the point of view. If it is not adding value to you, it will be just like ICICI or HDFC call which comes to you for loan and you say, I don't require it. But if it's of value, you would not cut that call. So it is an assumption. It is our mind block, I would say, a mindset change that we need to have. You are anticipating that the competition is doing exactly as you are. It's not. Probably it is the same garbage that all of us are doing. But as Mr. Sanjeev said, we need to move away from that. Get out of this assumption that people are really doing things which are mattering. Otherwise, the pharma industry would have been in a very different level. The whole question that Mr. Sanjeev put, that are we fast enough? Are we there? Is pharma really there? Is the intent there? Is the willingness there? That is the question. So, not to sound harsh, but I would just say rethink, relook, and only invest in projects which really add value to that particular individual. And this example of medical college was just an example. You can do it with any cohort. You can actually do a separate cohort for UP. You can do it for Karnataka. You can do a separate one for Maharashtra, depending on the geography. It depends on how much creative ability you have to reach out digitally. Thank you.
Thank you, Prithvish. Very rightly answered. And that analogy, that hit me hard. HDFC and ICICI calls coming up every day, and that is what is happening. That must what doctors are feeling with pharma companies now. Every third call is from MR. Thank you, Prithvish. Another question, Sanjeev sir, if you can take it. When we say about patient connect through digital platform, the person, Mr. Nilotpal, is from critical care marketing. How can we bring in patient connect with patients who are critically ill and needs immediate life-saving measures? This might hold good for chronic therapy segments like diabetes, cardio, geriatrics, etc. But what about acute segment?
I think from a practical standpoint, this question is a valid question. How do I communicate with a patient who is on lines in the ICU? Yeah, but in reality, it's also about thinking ability. No? When I say that you need to connect with the patient, you need to pay. We are also looking at what is the patient condition. Yeah, you need to connect with the patient condition. What needs to be done? For example, are you helping the doctor? See what happens if you look at an ICU. And unfortunately, most even critical care marketeers don't sit in an ICU for days together to understand what happens. But let's say if they do, they'll realize that out of 10 patients, there are 4 are COPD, 3 are nosocomial infections. Why do these things happen? And in this kind of multiple infections or resistant infections, how do you suspect what infection could be happening? Is at what stage do you feel you should start suspecting fungal infection? All that is also patient-related outcome or patient engagement in a way in critical care, which is equally important. I think it's not about the physicality of the patient or the physical condition of the patient. It's about the condition of the patient and therefore engaging in that context with everyone. And therefore, you need to start expanding your horizon by not asking the question why, but why not? And then you will find that there are many things that you can do there which are very different from what it happens. For example, we ignore wound care in this country dramatically because of patient, let's say, pain threshold. Yeah, but the sticking of lines and putting so many needles inside creates different kinds of wounds. The site wounds are equally painful. How do I do wound management there? Now you're talking about patient care at a different level. I am a critical care guy selling antibiotics, but am I not responsible to understand what's happening with the wound care of that patient? What will I do then? How will I partner with somebody to ensure that the medical community is helpful on that wound care? So there are, and I can go on and on with this, but I would only say very simply is that for a marketeer, he or she has to think through much widely about what they are doing. It is not theoretical stuff that if we say engage the patient means engage the patient on a very difficult bed. It's about a lot more things.
Thank you, Sanjeev. So broadening the perspective, we are again thinking about how it is helping me or helping anyone in their day-to-day work. It will help, but broaden your perspective towards how you can talk about the problem and find out solutions through content and all. There are a lot of questions and we have 10 minutes left. So let me take one again, mindset issue question here, sir. Nowadays, doctors feel that pharma companies publishing scientific updates depends on their products being better than competitors. And most of the companies' digital CME, their molecule is best. So doctor mindset, something like that he is referring to that. I'm still not able to get the question for this.
I've got the question. The question is, you are saying that if I go and present the paper to a doctor, today doctor feels that it is only about your medicine and how better it is than the competitor. Correct? I understand that is the level of the question. Reflect on what Mr. Sanjeev just said. He talked about a disease management condition. See, here again, what is the issue with the doctor? Trust. He does not trust you anymore with that paper. Is that not the basic question that's coming in? But if you talk about a disease management condition, and I will play along the same area where Mr. Sanjeev just said about the wound care post-discharge. Nobody has thought about it. Along with that critical care paper, if you are able to develop something which takes through the entire journey of the patient, why would you feel that a doctor will consider you less or not consider you a good enough person to be considered for credibility? It would be. See, these are again why it happens, because one sudden day you decide that for this quarter I am going to use a Wolters Kluwer's paper which is speaking for my patient, for my drug. And then after you distribute it through your field force, you completely forget about that product. Next month you launch something else which is on price, and you continue to go so on and so forth. So you are not building the bridge. You are putting a brick, then doing something else, then again wanting to put a brick back. It won't work. Mr. Sanjeev, in his speech today, he mentioned about the era of the 80s and the 90s wherein doctors used to stand up and welcome reps. Do you know why? It is because companies used to speak on disease management conditions, disease management areas, and not just the brand. Brand used to come later. So if you're speaking on a disease management area, why would you speak for it for 1 month? You would speak for it for at least 6, 7, 8 months, or at least even if I say a 45-day cycle for a campaign, 6 times in a year. If you really are able to have, if you do have the tenacity to go down that line, you will see that you are valued enough. And even today, I can vouch for you that there are reps and there are companies where doctors willingly give calls and accept them.
Perfect. Thank you, Prithvish, for helping me out here. I could understand the mindset, but couldn't get the question. So Harsh, one question to you, because this is a different angle talking about publishing and all. Everyone has the open data source. Most of the companies have good KOL connect to. Won't medical fraternity get fatigued with that?
Okay. I would say, Prithvish did answer a part of that question earlier, right? Where he talked about having those KOL connects. Everybody has the data. Well, I honestly, I would not like to believe that, but let's say I believe it. Let's assume that we believe that. And companies have good KOL and connect to. Well, that is what I feel is the companies are thinking. Let's go and talk to the KOLs. It's all about that word called trust. Will they receive that information from you when you send that? Will they feel that valuable? Will they feel that it is of relevance to me? So if that is not the case, I will not say there is a connect. Okay, it is more of an acquaintance still. However, I think I will not really say, the medical fraternity getting fatigued. I don't know, and I don't think so. Our researchers says, and when the research, I just kind of talked about it in my presentation, they're still looking for evidence-based information. And there is still dearth of that. So how are we filling that gap? How are we filling that touch point? You can try to reach out to this KOL in numerous different ways, but if you're not solving the problem or the need that they have, there is no connect. There is nothing that's happening. There is no give and take. There's no mutual way of building that trust. So in my opinion on this question, Swati, I believe the world when it comes to KOL Connect, that still needs to be reimagined and reimagined and reimagined in many folds. Because ultimately it's all about serving them with the right kind of information that should matter to them. So I will disagree on the point that medical fraternity is getting fatigued. No, I think it's the imagination, and hence we have to reimagine in new things. And that can only happen when you keep experimenting new things and keep failing fast, but still keep moving forward, being consistent, being agile, and still hitting the point as much as possible.
Thank you, Harsh, and thank you, Prithvish. That point needs to be mentioned again, which Prithvish just now mentioned regarding that, dropping a brick and not building the wall. You're just going and just giving that scientific paper to the doctor, and after that, we feel like our work is over. That mindset has to change. Your work actually starts from there. You need to engage the doctor. You need to interact with him. You need to see how it is important for him, get the feedback from him if he needs something. So that is a continuous improvement that has to happen. One question, in the digital marketing adoption curve, what's the importance of a remote call? So this is I think a good question.
Important. I'll give you an example. Even I thought it was not important. Till last month, we had a program wherein we had KOLs, and it was for a very different reason, not business purposes. And there was a Q&A session, and I just like all of you, I just wanted to understand what do doctors feel about digital marketing. And I raised my hand and I asked the question, expecting the doctor to say I would require papers, etc., so on and so forth. And you will not believe it. He said, we still look forward to digital calls at least once in a month if it is arranged properly, if a prior appointment is taken. And I was shocked because my anticipation of answer was very different than what answer I got for my question. So yes, remote calls, it is very tricky. You need to understand that if you are doing a remote call to somebody, you should have enough substance in your bag to add value to that call. Otherwise, next month you will not get that call. So as Swati was mentioning, if you have a plan, so again I go back to my 250 KOLs. If you have a yearly plan for 250 KOLs to be digitally onboarded, do you have at least enough material to talk to the doctor digitally once in 45 days as a marketing guy? So that means 6 times a year. To do that, you will need the content right upfront in your planning phase. Obviously, you can plan for 3 such calls and then you can continue to plan. I am not saying that at the beginning of the year, you have all your plans ready for all the calls. But at least during your strat plan, you need to have at least the plan for what are you going to talk to them in the next 3 calls. And you schedule such calls in a span of 45 days, including your sales guys and yourself on a call. And you will see that it yields wonders. So yes, there is still a definite room for remote video call detailed to a doctor, with the caveat that it should have enough value for the doctor and not waste his time, because 15-20 minutes for a doctor is good enough time for him to waste here.
Thank you, Prithvish. Thank you for building up on that also and answering the question. I want to open the session, but requesting all the audience members who want to ask the question to keep the questions relevant to the topic of discussions and do not digress to any other topic. So 1 or 2 questions we will take and then we will wrap up the session. Yeah, Satish, if we can allow unmuting from people who have raised hands. Requesting again, do not digress from the topic. Yeah.
So what I'm doing, I will lower all hands. Now, yes, now you can raise hand if you want. Yeah,
Nilanjan, yes.
Please.
Mr. Nilanjan, please unmute. Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me properly?
Yes. Yes.
My question is that, although the content engaging a customer is very important, relevant content. But the question is that the implementation part in clinic for the sales people is also the training and the proper guidance is also very important to me. And by this, the engaging to the customer or the contact time is increased. So again the trigger question is coming that after 1 month, the overall coverage and average call and all the sales people has to answer. This is again a question for mainly to the Indian company. How to handle this?
Yeah. So, Sanjeev sir or Prithvish, you want to answer? Here again, I think he has answered his own question by focusing on the training part and hiring the right people. But still, Sanjeev sir, if you can add to this.
I think Prithvish is the right guy to answer this actually. He's actually, in a day-to-day world, I think he's really dealing with it.
So, what was his name? I forgot. Anyway, see, you're talking about quantity versus quality, and Mr. Sanjeev spoke about it. Don't go behind just the numbers. Okay. Good that you brought about training and development. I wanted to speak about it, but I did not. It is extremely important if you are looking for, whether digitally or traditionally, if you are looking to build trust and credibility, your guy needs to be able to speak. And for that,
Yes.
If it's a paper from Wolters Kluwer, which will cost you a hell of money, it would still need a lot of more training to at least underline what was the abstract of the study, what is it for, and so training and development is extremely important. You need to focus on that. As regards quantity of calls, see, I'm also from an Indian company now. 12 calls is still doable. I don't think anybody asks more than 12 or 13 calls a day. I didn't really get why is your quantity coming in between the delivery of quality. If you can be more specific.
Mainly I am asking this because the engagement of a single doctor is if the main our objective to make our customer more engaged with ourselves or make ourselves more important to the doctor, to the customer, and make ourselves make our company more important to the customer. If it is a major objective of the program or the content driven
Yeah,
call.
absolutely, you're right. The whole objective is to make yourself more relevant with the customer. That is the whole idea of today's call. Are you in a place to engage your customers and build trust and credibility so that he looks forward to you as a credible partner of choice to engage in his actual requirements, which is his day-to-day requirement, and that really solves the problem of fatigue also, which some people were saying. It will not create fatigue if you are adding value to him. If you are meeting a friend, will it add fatigue to you? No. So if he's meeting a friend from an industry who gives him value, who tells him about a disease condition, who speaks to about a recent article or evidence, he'll be very happy. You're right.
Thank you. Thank you, Prithvish. Let's hear the next question from Mr. Arijit Chaudhary.
I think Mr. Pankaj Srivastava.
Yeah, Mr. Pankaj, yeah, if you can ask the question.
Thank you, Dr. Swati. First of all, it's great to listen to all the stalwarts. And I just want to comment one thing. Everybody is talking about trust building, right? And I completely agree that trust building is one of the most essential thing in the doctor conversation, doctor interaction. And if you want to do that, the first thing which to my mind is most important is your ability to question the mindset of the doctors, right? The existing mindset. Because if I want to implant something new, it is important for me to dislodge the existing belief system. I think that is where there's a great disconnect compared to what was there 20 years back and what is currently. And I think Prithvish as well as Nilanjan, they both have touched upon a very important point. Because if you want to do that, 2-3 things are important to my mind. One, your knowledge, not only about your disease, but the surrounding area, one. And second thing is to ask the pointed questions to the doctors. If you have to do that, you need to have supreme confidence and your ability to engage into a conversational call. That is what is plaguing right now whenever I'm working in the market. I mean, the ability to do a conversational call is missing. So if you are not able to do that, how we will be able to build trust? Because it's extremely important, whatever best article you are going to have, until and unless you are able to discuss with the doctor, trust me, that article is going to go into the dustbin. So, I mean, that is where there's a great disconnect, and all the leaders of this industry, they must address. And I completely agree, learning and development needs to be given huge importance, which is somewhat is lacking. And I can give you example again. Dr. Swati has told me to be very specific. When we launched one product, Lantus, trust me, the type of pitched interactions we used to have with the leading KOLs of this country. Okay, because we were changing the complete mindset. When we launched many other products like Allegra, like Januvia, it was important for us to dislodge the existing belief system and implant new things. That will only be possible provided we equip our people to do that. I mean, I'm talking till ZBM level, right? Because these are the people, they are in close touch with the KOLs, with all these people. And that is where I'm sorry to say there's a great disconnect.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pankaj. Very rightly pointed out the need for training and need for, special focus from this industry on their L&D departments. That's a call from PharmaState Academy also. Please focus on your L&D departments and build people here, equip them with the right skills. Next question, Mr. Akash, and this is the last question we can take for today. We have all your questions. I will send it to our partner in case they will, reply back to you regarding your specific query. Akash, you can unmute and please interact.
Yeah, thanks for giving us an opportunity. Since this is the last question, it's very short. I'll try to keep it very short. First of all, as said, India is growing, has GDP, agreed, many new starters coming up. So as a new startup, how is that a company will come out with the media, the publisher reports, and the trust factor, which has been discussed more today. The trust factor, I do agree with Mr. Pankaj what he's saying. So how to develop that, wherein we want data, a new startup, having that data, and how to develop that trust with a new startup. So how their print as well as the publisher is going to help. That's my question.
Harsh.
I can
Yeah.
I can talk from publishing perspective. Pankaj, sorry, that so thank you for asking that question. I think it's very important. I think I'm going to relate back to Pankaj's point as well. Is what are you generating this data for, and who are you generating this data for? Okay, so that's very important for me to go and speak to that doctor or to that customer in the right ways. So if I look at it from from leading a product team, I want to probably understand that profile, that persona as much as possible. And when you talk about a new setup, what is that we have to talk about? Are we prepared enough to have that right mindset? When I say mindset from a customer perspective, the right knowledge of what that doctor or what that clinician may really need, or is there a gap? Are we not? And are we seeking out support for that? Now, there was one of the questions that, which I kind of answered that. We have 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝑡 and medical fraternities getting fatigued. So I'll just take a quick 30-second on this, Swati.
Yeah.
I think I'm again going to go back to that point. How well prepared are we? How well, when I say well prepared, how much homework have we really done about that customer? How much data do we have? Are we lacking any kind of data about them to know more about them? And unless we are prepared, even if you land up a conversation, it's not going to work. So that is where I'll pause, Swati, but happy for Prithvish and Sanjeev probably to jump in from their perspective.
No, I agree completely to it. So
Yeah.
the other, I just wanted to make a comment to Pankaj and Akash together. While I agree to what Pankaj says, and there is no doubt about it, that you need to focus on L&D, you also need to realize the fact that the industry does not get candidates as good as it used to get 10 years earlier. So that is something that is a pressure on the L&D. So the marketing needs to understand what are the other ways and means by which, with the available talent, they can. You cannot stop your work. You have to continue to win. Correct. So you'll have to think of ways. Do you build a survey before going out with the paper? Do you ask your field force to run a survey on the iPad? Everybody has a tablet to it, about and trying to understand what the customer wants. So that amount of diligence is something that needs to be done at the marketing level also. It cannot be that only L&D will do and I will do only my bit. It doesn't happen that way. The world has changed.
Yeah. So agreed. Thanks. I do understand. Since the top hierarchy becomes a senior person who has been working in the field for almost 25 years odd, so he know how to tackle it. But it's the company backup. The doctors whom we are looking for trust needs data, and they don't require data of 1 or 2 or 10 or 100 patients. So for a new startup coming up, it's one-to-one trust. But once we want to go it on a larger scale, more number of doctors, probably you won't have each and every doctor saying that, okay, I agree with you. But most of the doctors now, there are new doctors coming in where they look out for the data. So how is that? Probably my question. I hope the panel has got it. But since we are lack of time,
Akash, we will. Yeah. We will park your thoughts over this. It's a startup thing, a new company struggles that you're talking about, how to go about it. But I think this session actually talked about few pointers where a new company can start with the right, mindset. So there I will leave you for this question.
So the basics don't change, Akash. Actually,
Yeah.
even for a startup, it won't change.
Exactly.
The basics would remain the same. You are possibly being plagued by trying to understand what will be the outcome if I scale up. Don't answer that question now. Start step by step. You will get that answer once you progress. It's not very difficult.
Thank you, sir. I got the answer. Thanks.
That was very comforting, Prithvish. That answer actually comforts most of the startups. Thank you so much. And here we will end the session. Before you are moving out of the session, please fill the feedback form. How did we do today? And what next you would like us to do in the form of webinars or activities. This was a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Many questions, many answers, many good insights from all the speakers came out. Even questions from the participants were incisive. So thank you for such sort of participation. And Prithvish sir, regarding the L&D space and the skill space, we will have a separate discussion. We are into that business and we understand the intricacies that are happening. The industry not attracting the right talent is the question. That we are trying to solve from our end also, one step at a time. So we will keep it parked for some other session. But thanking Sanjeev sir, Prithvish and Harsh for joining us, sparing time to share their views from their busy schedules. I know I asked all of them in a very short span of time to join and speak on it, but they said yes, and here we are hosting it. So thank you, Prithvish. Thank you, Sanjeev sir, for joining us today. Anything you would like to speak before I close off the session?
Thank you and wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Prithvish. Thank you,
so
Sanjeev.
much.
Thank you, Harsh, and thanks, Wolters Kluwer, for collaborating for this webinar with us. Thanks, participants. You all were missed, and we hope that we will continue doing more and more sessions for you, bringing in knowledge, bringing in the right perspectives. Stay connected with us and fill the feedback form.
Bye-bye.